Hey, welcome to Cultivating the Masses. My name is Adam Arif and I'm the producer for this show. Every day, we look for like-minded individuals who are willing to share their passion on why they do what they do best. Essentially, we want their story to cultivate the masses. This show is what we're all about.
The student who raised his hand and asked will always get the answer. That is how Roshan Menon made it to where he is today. From enrolling as an accountant student to being the founder of Saturday Selects, a platform that provides exposure to local artists, and he shared with us how important it is to always ask and keep learning as we go. Hi, this is Bryler, and welcome back to another episode of Cultivating the Masses. This podcast is a collaboration between CultureTalent and Renegade Radio. So without further ado, let's get to it. Good evening, Roshan.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Yo, how you been?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good myself. It's definitely a pleasure and honor to have you here. Knowing that you yourself run Saturday Selects, which is a huge thing right now. But before we get into all this stuff, I do have a personal question, which is out of the box kind of question.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're also a musician, I just want to know, for you, what is your favorite genre out of them all time favorite genre?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's awesome. Awesome to be here. All-time favorite genre. Well, I started out listening to hip hop music back in like 2005, 2006, and that's kind of grown over time. I had my EDM phase. I had back to hip hop phase and then future bass with like Flume stuff. But right now, like I would say the past 2-3 years, I'm really into baile funk and African music. So baile funk is like Brazilian music from like the slums, and African music mainly Afrobeats, dancehall rhythms, Soweto, Gokum, music along like those genres. Basically.
Yeah, I noticed like I don't know what was the transition like, right? But there was a period in time where, what was that Brazilian
baile funk.
Yeah, baile funk, right? There was a period transition in the party scene specifically, right? People start listening to hip hop. Everyone was going like, hip hop, and then suddenly people start playing baile funk, and I'm like, wait, what happened here,
What's
guys?
going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Why is everyone suddenly tuning into that one? And then it's amazing to see that progress, lah. Like it's shocking for me, definitely, because I was enjoying hip hop a lot at the time.
Yeah, but do you
right?
enjoy like the Brazilian music as well,
Yeah,
like the baile funk?
I try to get into it, but then again, it's everyone have their own cup of tea.
Yeah,
so,
no, I completely understand.
Yeah.
It's not really for everyone, but there is a market for it. It's not like a huge, massive commercial market, but there are like 250 people who go out to clubs who actually enjoy that music. It's either they don't know they like it yet, or they don't know what the genre is, but they're like, I like it, and I'm going to dance to it.
Yeah. This is pretty cool. Like, how do you actually get to know about all this genre, man? Is it something that you did first? Because knowing that you produce music yourself, right?
I actually don't produce or make music.
Okay.
I spent some time in the studio for like a year. So I watched the process of different people, different producers, rappers, artists, all come in one studio space and make music. Like, I personally don't play instruments, so having that studio session at that time was like very critical in me wanting to understand more about production, because you can go to a designer and tell a designer, oh, I want this poster done in like 1 week. I know that time frame, but when it came to working with a producer or music producer, I didn't know what the time frame was. Like, how long does it take to make a beat? Like, is it a day? Is it a few hours, or is it a week? Like, how long is the production process? Then you go into the mixing process and mastering process. And when it's 2 or 3 different people, you need to try and get all of them in at the same time. So I liked that idea of having to overview and oversee that process. So personally, I don't produce any music.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I enjoyed that process of I like to create that opportunity for other people to make music.
Oh,
yeah, I like putting different producers in a room, even if they don't make music, like just having conversations and talking with each other. I believe like that really truly helps a musician or an artist, or even just anybody in that room grow at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, but like you asked how I came across the genre earlier. It was actually through Boiler Room. Yeah,
Okay.
so I watched Sango's Boiler Room with Ray-Ban, and I was like, what is this music? Like,
Right.
because I knew Sango, I knew he made like Brazilian music, but I didn't know what exactly it was. And Sango's from Selection, so I used to listen a lot to like Selection radio shows. I started 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, listening, and then that's how I got onto like Sango, Mr. Carmack, and from that Sango Boiler Room, I kind of just went down this YouTube algorithm that recommended me
That
like
usually
a
happens.
bunch of different like tracks and other Boiler Rooms, and that's how I discovered FS Green and Jero Vandal, and those are the two people that really have blended that baile funk sound with hip hop and R&B through remixes and edits, and from that I basically went and dug deeper into like the original tracks, and that's how I came across like all these Brazilian artists and MCs, who are from like the favelas and the slums, who are making music, and some of them are as young as like 16 years old.
Right, right.
Yeah.
All this artists that you're listening to, right? I believe that they all have different sound that they go with, the different approaches that they go with as well. But I do want to know, like, what is that one thing that gets you attracted to these people specifically? Right,
Ooh.
maybe that one quality that you seek for, maybe.
In like their music.
Yeah, in anything in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like asking people that I meet maybe for the first time, or in that first conversation we have in that 1-2 hours, like what kind of music do you listen to? Like, I think that's very important to like know what another person listens to. Like, now we know you like hip hop music, but you're not really in tune with baile funk music. But you might like another foreign language music or song that you may be attracted to, or that you enjoy a lot more. It can be maybe in the form of house music or techno music.
Right.
But in terms of me getting attracted to a track that someone makes, has to have a lot of rhythm. That's the thing, like, that baile funk music has its rhythm. House music has that rhythm. Dancehall music has that rhythm as well. That's why they call it rhythm, RIDDIM, because it's called rhythm. So
Okay.
if in African dialect or language, I don't know what's the right term for it, but they use the term rhythm. Yeah, which is a rhythm, but rhythm. So that's why they refer to dancehall rhythms, Afrobeat rhythms, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow. I'm getting schooled right here,
No,
guys.
it's just like what I know.
Oh,
but then,
I mean, like, yeah, I've never known. I never knew any of this until you tell me in like right now. Like,
okay.
what was that? Afrobeat rhythm,
Afrobeats, yeah.
and all that. I never heard of what was that?
Baile funk?
Baile funk.
Yeah.
I never knew any of that, and it's amazing to. I mean, I probably do go back home and do some research on my own.
Yeah,
as well.
I
Or
mean,
maybe
like-
come to one of your.
Yeah, please come. We have like a monthly night called Spicy Rhythm Club that highlights this music. So we did it for like the first 6 months this year when we had a residency at Gyro. And right now we are taking a break for a bit with Spicy Rhythm Club. But we have a really big show that we just teased out yesterday that is happening on the 8th of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So like that is one of our products that is like trying to provide an alternative venue for people who want to listen to this music, or like a friend who brings another friend, hey, you should listen to this music. I think you're going to like it. Oh, it's baile funk. What is that genre? Even
Come
if they
over.
Google about it and like, or they don't want to come back, they will eventually meet someone else that like speaks to them about it, and then be like, I actually went to like a night or a club night that had this music or this track or that genre that you mentioned, and like that's how you get more people to come for these shows. That's like the education process.
I see.
Yeah, and getting more people to eventually slowly come. It's definitely a slow process, but I find it like a lot of fun getting more people to like come to these shows and see them there and like see them enjoying themselves when I'm like, I didn't know you like this music.
Right.
But they'll be like, yeah, but it's good. Like nobody else plays it in KL. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, knowing that you're also a DJ,
Yeah.
right? I just want to know which part of your life did that came into a realization and manifested into the Roshan we know right now, right? How and when did DJ came about in your life?
So I think I was like 12 years old or 14 years. Like I was really young, like maybe like
Yeah, that's very young.
The end of primary school. I would downloaded Virtual DJ Home.
Right, right, right.
Because that's the only free one. But I didn't know how to even mix the tracks properly. I just knew how to load it on each deck
Right.
and drag the slider and fader across so that it mixes. Like I did not understand the basics of like BPM or like beat matching or like
Right.
an intro, outro and stuff like that. But I got my first real like taste of it was when I was in college, and they were looking for someone to play music at our orientation. Sorry, not college, university. I was in Inti, and they were looking for someone to play music at the orientation, and they didn't have much of a budget, so they couldn't book a DJ.
Right.
So I was like, I just like faked it and was like, I know how to DJ.
You faked it. and
Yeah,
then-
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
like,
wow.
I just told them, yeah, I know how to DJ, and I borrowed my friend's tractor controller, and I like just figured out how it roughly works within a week. Like just the basics, like ultimate basics. Like I was pressing like the sync button so that the songs would go in sync.
Right.
Like it wasn't the cleanest transitions, but at the end of the night, what everyone came and told me the most was that they really enjoyed the selection of tracks.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I want to share more of this music that I listen to, like, because not a lot of people, like, none of my friends at the time DJ'd either. So I picked it up in like a week, learned the basics of doing it, and when I realized I really enjoyed it, I was like, okay, how can I do it again without having to borrow my friend's controller again? You know, and but I was really involved in photography at the time, so it was mainly just consuming a lot of music while I was in university. I was writing a lot of scripts. I studied economics and finance, so a lot
Wow.
a lot of my time in uni was taken up by having to study and photography. But I had backpacked to Europe before I joined university, and every year while I was in university, I did an internship. So I interned with a Pasan Motor. I worked as their finance intern at a streetwear fashion company. That really gave me like the first proper exposure to the scene. Like that's where I met Jin Hackman, Sonawan. That's the time that Pasan Motor had the magazine called The Deck, and they were really like pushing that at the time, and I had to drop it off at all the cafes as the intern, and that's where I found all these cool little cafes in KL that, because I always thought cafes were hipster,
Right.
so I never really hung out there, you know, until I really got involved in having to deliver these magazines, and that's how I met Alicia Amin at Thursdays. That's how I found out about Thursdays. That's how I found out about LOKL Coffee and like all these different places around KL.
Right.
And I was also like, I used to spend every weekend around Pasar Seni and Masjid Jami, like shooting a lot of street photography. So that I would say would be like the first experience of me DJing, and then how it just grew from there throughout university, because I only came back to music in my final semester in college. Yeah.
I see. What was your age at the time when you started? I mean, when you said that you were faking the part where yeah. What was your age at the time? Pretty ballsy move, I would say.
19, gap year, 20. I think I was like 20.
20.
20,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
the thing is, like my best friend at the time was like, yeah, he DJs.
Yeah.
Like he just played along, and I was like, cool, like I got a guy on my side, like this is believable as hell.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when we were in our 20 years old, right? We were pretty brave with a lot of shit. We don't even think about the consequences of things we do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But also that's a great part, because you take that leap when you're at that age. It's amazing. And then you took a pause, and then you start exploring photography. Is it?
Yeah,
And
I
then
did.
now you're back at music.
Yes, yeah, I got back into it, I guess.
Did you-
final semester of uni?
Did you finish your degree?
Yeah, I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Congrats.
graduated like thanks. I graduated like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah.
I see. You are now 26.
26. Yeah,
Ah,
26.
still long way to go, man. We're still young as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now let's talk about the highlight of, I believe it's the highlight, Saturday Selects.
Yeah.
Right? What was the journey like? What was the process like? Just share with us everything about Saturday Selects. How did the idea came up and all that?
So I started it with a guy named Johan Razali, 3.5 years ago. He picked me up after uni one day, and we were really into, have you heard of Create and Explore?
No.
Create and Explore is basically this collaboration platform that Taku, producer and photographer, started like years ago. He's from Sydney, and he was giving an opportunity to like photographers and music producers to work on a project together. So, for example, he would get a musician to give him a beat or a 3-minute track, and he'll get a photographer to shoot images for that beat, and then they'll make it into like a little mini animation music video.
Oh wow, that's
And
pretty cool.
yeah, it was like, and I was like, yo, I want to be featured. Like, I love Taku. Like, I want to work with this guy. Even if I didn't get chosen for it, it's more of like connecting with him, like that I wanted. But I was like and at the time we were meeting a lot of music producers and other photographers who was seeking for these opportunities. So we were like, okay, let's start our own version of Create and Explore. Like, and we needed a name for it, and I knew Tagmatic. I don't know if you know Tagmatic. I knew Edmund, Ego. At that time, I just met Emir Hermono as well. We met a couple of people that were making beats on the side, like for fun, and they had full-time jobs. And I knew because I was so involved in photography, I knew a lot of people, a lot of photographers.
Right.
And they were willing to shoot album covers and covers for these songs. So I was like, okay, if I get a song from a producer friend and I get one of my photographer friends to shoot a cover for it, that's some form of collaboration that I eventually wanted to highlight. Give an opportunity to like these music producers, because their music doesn't get played on radio. And at that time I was like 22. I didn't really understand the climate, the business climate of the music industry. Like, I didn't know what were the other options. Like, if you don't get on radio, or you have Spotify, and then you have SoundCloud, and then there are all these layers. But at that time I wasn't fully aware of it. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna like, there's this platform called SoundCloud that I used to use a lot, and I used to find a lot of music through that. So we just started the entire idea on SoundCloud, and we were posting it on Instagram. Like just the cover arts and just like simple content stuff, like 3 days till the song drops and stuff. We did not know what we were doing. Like, I was in my final semester of college, and it was like we had the final year project FYP going on, and I was going to Singapore a lot to catch a lot of shows, because that was the time I started earning a little bit more from my photography stuff. And I wasn't into I wouldn't say I'm into sneakers. I like certain sneakers, so I didn't spend as much on sneakers. But I liked like going to a different country to like see. I'd rather spend money on experiences.
Right.
So Mr. Carmack and Jero Vandal came to Singapore May 2016, and I dropped everything that weekend and I just disappeared and left to Singapore and watched. And that was probably the most amazing experience that I had, like in terms of shot. I did not know who this Jero Vandal guy was, who is now my favorite DJ. And I went there for Mr. Carmack because I knew who Mr. Carmack was. And it was like just 60 people inside this room, just all enjoying music, drinking, and just really vibing out. And I was like, okay, one day I would want to do an event like this and bring these guys down. Because when I asked them, like, why didn't you guys come to KL? Like, I'm from KL. I had to come all the way down to Singapore, where things are 3 times as expensive to catch you guys. Like, why didn't you guys come to KL? Then they're like, oh, nobody in KL wants to book us. I was like, okay, so that means there is a gap. There's an opportunity for someone to bring these people in, But obviously, it's like a money game. You need to book these guys. They're not like super cheap, or neither they are super expensive either. But you still need finances to like make things happen.
Definitely, yeah.
So when we came back from Singapore, a lot of people were asking us, okay, you have all these like releases on SoundCloud, like I think it was 5 or 6 releases. And they were like, why didn't you just do a party? Like do an event. I was like, but where are we going to do this event? Like, I have my exams coming up. I have my FYP coming up. Like, where are we going to do this party? And at that time, this is like the 2 people that sort of like sparked that really motivated us to jump into doing events was Leela Thomas and Kieran Thomas. Okay, the lead singer of Riot Jones.
All right. Kieran? Yeah.
So Kieran was the marketing manager of Ateba at the time. Okay. And I knew Leela, who used to be part of Feel Good, Feel Good MY, run by Rabin. Yeah. So I used to go for their parties when I was like super young,
Right,
like
right.
18, 19. Like I used to go there and be like, whoa, you know, like, so I feel like those were like the best people to sort of help us, give us that kickstart when we
Right.
started at Ate Bar. And when we did our first event, we had like live music artists. We had Dan Shift, we had Ego, we had Tagmatic, we had Emir and Flico DJing. We had Naufal. I brought my friends from Singapore to DJ. We had I would say about 300 people
Wow.
for our first party at Ate Bar, and I was like, wow, this is actually
crazy.
quite fun. And we did it on a monthly basis
Yep.
from July onwards.
Oh, it was a monthly basis.
Yeah, I mean,
at
we
the
did
time.
it once first, and then we're like, oh, okay. We didn't
know
lose
what?
money.
Yeah.
We didn't make much either, but that was fun.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like a break away from the week or from the month, because we did it once a month. You know, like it was a break away from like just work and studying, and we got to like, we booked an Airbnb for the weekend. You know, we would stay in the Airbnb. We would go and set up at Ate Bar and stuff like that. So that happened for like 6 months. We brought in our friends from Jakarta, because Emir Hermono is from Jakarta. So we connected with a lot of producers and artists over there, like Ariel Nayaka, Rai Putra, Yosugi, and all these people have really just like, they really catalyzed the movement of wanting to bridge the gap between Jakarta and KL. Yeah.
Wow.
And we really wanted to like be part of that as well. You know, there have been people like who have initiated it over the years, but not for the producers that are in our scene or our age.
Right,
Like
right.
from the previous scenes, they have done their crossovers, but they haven't done it for us. You know, there's no one doing it yet at the time. So we just bridged that gap, and we brought them down like 2-3 times, and then we stopped doing parties at Ate Bar because we were getting tired of doing shit at clubs.
Right.
And we started doing like Sunday parties at Fix in SS15.
Yep.
So we used to have like barbecues outside.
Oh.
We used to have talks, like little panel discussions with like Shaq and Hugh from Pasa Mota, like talking about the fashion scene. You know, we broadcasted that. We didn't know what we were doing. We just wanted to be like, okay, we want to help more people be able to do this or have more access to this information. I truly believe like although we live in an imperfect world, I truly believe information should be shared.
Yep.
Like that's how people can make decisions better. You know, like if you don't have, that's why I like sharing things. Like if I find out something, like I'd be like, okay, like if more people knew about this, I think it would like really be beneficial. Like
Yep.
you know, so
You get excited.
I get
Share it.
excited.
Yeah,
I definitely
yeah.
get excited.
Like,
Like,
oh shit, I found something new. I want to share it now.
like, and for that, like with music, it's through the radio shows. You know, like we do that, and then we had like live recordings. We had gigs. We did a collaboration with Huff at Fix, and that happened for like a few months, and then we got offered to start our residency at Six, which was September 2017, and we held down the residency for like a year and a half until
Wow.
November last year. Yeah, and it was on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I guess that's like the highlight in some sense, because we did it on a Thursday night. It's not a Friday night or a Saturday night. We sort of like, and we sort of did that, but we also did that at the right time,
Right.
because last year Thursdays were the new Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah, definitely. I find myself going.
Now
out
nobody
Thursday.
goes out this year Thursdays.
really?
Like not as much, I would say. Not as much.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wonder
Like
what
last year
happened.
was that. I pun tak tahu. I'm trying to
serious.
figure it out. Like
What
bias
happened?
psychology.
I myself, I don't go out Thursdays anymore, man.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
you used to at one point,
Yeah.
like for a bit. Yeah. It's like, it's just behavioral. Like, you know, we have a lot of information on spending patterns and buying patterns on consumers for so many different products, but we don't have one that is purely just information on our club scene. You know, number of people that goes out. We know it's a cycle. We know that it has its peaks and troughs, but do we actually have a real graph?
Yeah,
Coca-Cola has a spending and buying graph or index, but we don't have that. Like, you know, and hopefully someone does do that someday. Because I see a lot of this information available on Eventbrite, like websites like Eventbrite and Toned In, but they're really highlighting the US and European economy. Even like KL and Singapore is two completely different economies. Like, you know, I truly like hope that one day we're able to like, you know, categorize this information and make it easily accessible for everybody to know, at least so we can predict.
Man, there's a lot of information I can consume right there, dude. That's a lot. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of that, do you think you could share with us what's your upcoming project with Saturday Selects?
Sure. So we haven't announced it yet, but we're working on a collaboration with Mixcloud and W Hotels. So we'll be announcing that next week. Basically, that will be part of their global campaign that is a product of their collaboration of Mixcloud and the W, and we are being the intermediates for the project. And it happens on the 7th of November. I can't share more information yet, but that's like the biggest project we have that will close out the year. And on the 8th of November, like I mentioned earlier, we teased out Spicy Rhythm Club. So that's going to be happening as well. And we're taking it out of a club. We're not going to be doing Spicy Rhythm Club in a club this year for this show. So we're trying to work with an independent venue and have it outside.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's basically, that's for like the event side on Saturday Selects. But other than that, we're going to be introducing a podcast series as well next year we will be speaking to a lot of different producers that travel through KL, or that we bring down, or that we already have plans to bring down. Or I'm going to be traveling to Europe in October, so I'm going to be meeting a lot of these producers there. So I definitely want to have conversations with them.
Yeah.
And, just pick their mind, like what you guys are doing, like picking minds of local, like Malaysians. I personally believe that if I can speak to all these people and have it on a platform on SoundCloud for other people to listen to, or Spotify, I think that could inspire other people, or maybe like from 1,000 listeners, one person be like, I can maybe do this too.
Yep.
That I believe in competition as well. Like, I truly believe, like, I will tell people, like, start your own thing. Like, it'll be nice to join Saturday Selects and, like, be part of something that's sort of still being established in some sense. But wouldn't it be more fun if you started something on your own?
Yep.
So yeah, we've got the Mixcloud event, we've got Spicy Rhythm Club, we're planning another Malaya disco party, which is one of our...
That sounds cool.
Yeah, so we used to do Malaya disco party at Under 9. So
Who came up with all these names, dude? Like it's pretty cool. Malaya disco party. Really cool,
I like coming up with names, like product names. I like branding and copywriting and stuff like that. But I would say, like, it's a collective effort between like Risky, Ivan, and I. So 3 of us run Saturday Selects now, like fully, and we just throw out really random names. Even Saturday Selects, like, I think came up from a dream. Saturday Selects, a lot of people were initially against it because they're like, you're limiting to yourselves to like Saturday Selects. What if you get like a residency on Thursday, which did happen with 6? We're like, we'll just name it something else, like the name of the agency or the company or the record label, Saturday Selects. Like, we can just create products out of it, like Spicy Rhythm Club and Malaya Disco Party. Yeah, so we're trying to bring back Malaya Disco Party, which is going to be highlighting like house and disco music, like mainly Nusantara, more house, proper like house, not like the banging house music, disco, maybe a bit of like Afro house, jazz house and stuff like that. So that's like Risky's baby, but it's one of our in-house products under Saturday Selects that we're trying to organize sometime in October, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Another highlight that we would want to go into as well is that on your Instagram, your Instagram handle is Bearded Camera God, and on your feed there's a lot of photography, very culture, lifestyle based photography, right? So we want to know, for our listeners out there, maybe they want to know how and when did that one came about. And is it more of a hobby, or is it more of a day job, or anything like that? How did photography in general came in your life, and what does it serve?
So I think I was like in primary school, and my uncle, my mom's brother, studied photography, and he had a film camera at home in his house, because I used to stay with my grandmother and him, and he had a film camera at home, a Nikon F5. And I was so fascinated with it. Like, I loved how it was I knew what a camera was. I loved how it was completely black with that one red line there, like on that Nikon camera. And I think I only picked it up when I was in college, like picked it up properly. I was 18, and I got into the photography society at Taylor's when I was studying A-levels. And I really got into lomography. I think that was a pretty big thing at the time, like Diana F plus. You had the La Sardina camera. So like the
Okay.
La Sardina camera was like my first camera. It had a plastic lens,
Okay.
and I used that on my trip to Singapore. And after I developed it, like I just fell in love with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I kept buying film cameras throughout my college, like just trying different film cameras until I found the one that like I was extremely happy with, and finally I got a Nikon FE2 film camera, and it was an all black body, so
Wow.
I really like that. But
It must
it
have
didn't.
looked cool.
It does. I still have it.
Right.
Yeah, my friend dropped it once and I got it fixed, but like the hot shoes like broke it now,
Right,
so I have to force my like flash in. But that would be like the initiation of like getting into photography. But my first actual like photography job that really I was like, oh, okay, like someone actually wants to pay me to like take photos, like, so I was like, okay. And it was Radhika and she used to work at Juice at the time, and she runs WAM Media, WAMN. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Right.
And she works with me on Duo Radio as well. And she gave me my first job for Juice, and it was to photograph TTFGA for Clark's campaign. And that was like the most nervous thing I've ever done. Like I was so nervous because I followed Ridwan for like a very, very long time on like Instagram. Him, Bibo Aswan, and all these people. And I was like, and I have to photograph a photographer.
Yeah.
As my first job. I was like, nice. I was like, this is gonna be fun. And I was primarily shooting on film only most of the time. So, and she needed digital photos for that. So I had
So
to.
that is also out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, which I didn't, because I never really used digital cameras. Like I used to borrow my friends' one to shoot like their birthday parties and stuff. Like they used to just use my camera and take photos at the time. And this was like a job. So I had to convince my parents to like go half and half with me, and I paid them back eventually for the camera.
Right.
And I started shooting for Juice until their print run eventually ended. I think it was like 2 years ago, December 2017. I shot the last one for them. 2017 or 2016, I can't remember. The physical print, like they don't print the magazines anymore. I was shooting for them, and then eventually it just like I started doing a bit more agency work. Like I started working for Nike. I did some shoots for Nike for Air Max Day with Sona One and Joe Flizzo. I did stuff for like COS. Have you heard of COS in Pavilion? So I did their campaign shots, which were featured in Juice magazine as well. And I was just doing a lot of like really like just random stuff, just trying to find what is it that I really enjoyed about photography. Like I loved street photography and not having to edit my photos, and if it comes out all blanks, it's all blanks. That's about it. Like I made a mistake with the roll. I can't blame anybody else, kind of thing. And so as it progressed and I got into Saturday Select started, and photography took a step back for a bit. And eventually what I realized was I always had my camera on me at all our shows, and I was taking photos. And what I really enjoyed was taking live music photos. And Jin Hackman, who runs Raising the Bar, until today I would still say him and Naufal are like the two key people who really motivated me and us as Saturday Select from the get-go. Like, who really gave us opportunities, not just like in music or photography, but just like advice and opportunities to like just have conversations with them. Because not a lot of people would have an opportunity to speak to these people. It's like Sona One and Joe Flizzo, and even have like a conversation that you could probably learn something, which is why I try and have a conversation with anybody I meet. Like to see if there's something that person can learn from me, or I can learn from that person.
Yep.
It's always a two-way thing if both people want to have conversations. So what I did was I started photographing all of them backstage, and I was shooting a lot of Raising the Bar shows because Jin invited me to shoot a lot. And from that, I realized I really wanted to shoot a lot more music stuff. And Jin was saying at the time, like, that a lot of people, every time he had a show and people, all these artists who he booked, when he asked for their press kit photos, they would send pictures from their handphones. And when asked why these people didn't have like proper press kit photos, was because hiring a photographer is expensive.
Yep.
Or they don't know like how to go about it. Or they just assume it's like probably 5 figures, to hire, but in reality it's not. So what I did was last year I started a little campaign called Artists Need Press Kit Photos.
Okay.
And I opened up like about 10 slots for local artists, DJs, producers, anybody to get their press kit photos taken for like $800.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did it for like a few people. And then this year I took a break again after that. Like I just shoot now mainly when there's jobs. Like I used to shoot a lot in university and college, was a lot of test shoots, like models from agencies or friends or other artists, like, just random test shoots. But now it's more like if the project interests me enough, like I did Alif's press kit photos, Alif's, yeah, his recent ones, and that
Yep.
was so much fun. Like if
Seagull,
it's
is it?
yeah,
Yeah,
Seagull,
Seagull.
yeah.
Yeah.
I designed the album cover as well for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
we have a design division under Saturday Selects, which is called Always Saturday, and we do a lot of design work, animation work. The idea of Always Saturdays is that we want to change the way people promote or present their content. Like, you don't need to spend 10,000 ringgit on a music video.
Yeah.
You can have a simple animation lyric video that is easily accessible as well. That costs far like lesser. Not saying that you shouldn't get a music video done.
Yep.
Like, but there are options for people who cannot afford a music video
Right.
to have video-based content that you can upload on YouTube and you can upload it on IGTV and Instagram and stuff like that. Yeah. So I guess that's how like photography is sort of merged with the music side
yeah.
and the design side, and it's just become this like big ball of like creative gas.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's amazing, to be honest. Because I myself, I'm never really a creative person, if you might say it here, right? But listening that coming from you, it gives me like the rough idea of how the mind of someone like you works, like music and photography, combining it, coming up with a whole new thing. Like, damn.
Thanks, man.
What? But yeah, I find it amazing, lah. Yeah,
Thank you.
I do want to know a little bit about your this, now that we know you're at this stage, you're at Saturday Selects, you have your own agency and all of that. We do want to know on a personal level, right? Maybe it could be on a mental side or a physical side or a spiritual side, if you might go that far, right?
Okay.
What was your career looking like at the very beginning? Was it like, did you start off really dark or did you start off really, whoa?
As in
Very
when we
strong.
started Saturday Selects?
Yeah.
When I started Saturday Selects. I mean, just slightly prior to that was because I studied economics and finance, I was always expected to work in a bank. Like, my parents always expected me to, like, go into, like, an accounting firm. Or I was supposed to study, like, actuarial science, but I decided not to and take economics and finance instead because I felt like that wasn't what I wanted. Like, I was supposed to do medicine initially.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, and I decided to take economics and finance, and thankfully my parents were like really supportive eventually, like they were still insistent on me wanting to do medicine, but I was like, that's not me. Like, as much as growing up, like my occupation that I wanted to be when I grew up was a doctor. Like that's because I never realized like a lot of other different things. Like right now I wish like I would have studied design or something like that. I feel like it would have been a much more useful skill set, but I guess like that's part and parcel of passing it down to another person that eventually you will have a conversation with, or like my kids or my young cousins, sisters and cousin brothers and stuff like that. So because in my final semester we started Saturday Selects, and after I graduated I told my parents I was going to like focus on photography, and I did like for a good 1 year in 2016, like from like July, August I did really focus on photography and growing that. But at the same time I fell more and more in love with Saturday Selects, like, and what it could possibly become. I fell in love with that idea of what it can be, like I completely understood at that time, like, oh, right now this is only it, but eventually like something will happen and it will grow bigger. We will get a bigger team. We will do slightly bigger things. We will bring in bigger DJs. It's definitely very, very challenging. It's not easy, like transitioning from graduating university into not having a job,
Right.
and starting your own company and with your best friend and having just friends part of the entire system at the time. and we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were learning it as we went.
As you go, yeah.
From people like Jin and Kiran and Naufal, and all these people kept like, they gave us a lot of guidance, and I feel like we're definitely still learning because we have new goals. We have new ambitions to see how big Saturday Sex can become, so it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's been dark, but it's been fun, challenging, that we have had our like downtimes, but we've also had like some of our best nights at these shows.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I wish a lot more people can actually cherish all this challenge that you go through. Like you said, keep learning as you go.
Yeah.
Well, because people only like appreciate the good things that are happening, but they don't really appreciate the bad things that are happening as well.
That's true.
So yeah. Anyways, knowing that Saturday Selects, I'm pretty sure that you collaborated with multiple people for ever since you started, right? How did that build your relationship with other local talents and artists?
I guess what really inspired me and what I wanted to adapt the most for Saturday Selects was the way Jin Hackman runs Raising the Bar. He is not biased. He is open to helping everybody. He features every time it's the Raising the Bar show poster until today, and they've been around for like 9 years. I see the poster, I'm like, who's that guy? Like, where did Jin find this guy? And it's like so cool that he's actually highlighting local talents, and he's finding these people and he's connecting with everybody. Like, Jin is the nicest guy. Like,
yeah, I can see. He's actually very nice. Like, whenever you stop him, hey, let's take a photo. He's like, yeah, dude,
yeah,
sure.
he's like, let's go with like his cap. If you find Jin with a cap, without a cap, that'll be the day.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I've seen him only one time, but adjusting his and then putting back in. Like, that's about it. But so I feel like what Jin really taught me and us was that you gotta be open to everybody, and Naufal always told me, if you don't ask, you don't know. So I asked for a lot of I asked if there was an opportunity. If there wasn't an opportunity, it's a no. If I didn't ask and he told me no, it's both me not working together with the guy. So I might as well just ask. That's like the one thing I realized.
At least you get the answer.
Yeah, at least if it's a no, it's a no. If he says yes, I'll be like, whoa.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Is it the way I said it? No, but honestly, it's just asking and interning at different places. Like Pasar Mota, I met that's where I met Sona and Jin, and I met Hugh, and I met a lot of people from Pasar Mota. That was like my real first opening into like the streetwear scene, the music scene. I met Fuad from Kyoto Protocol as well through Pasar Mota. What else? I worked with Burger Lab. I worked with Burger Lab. That was like, I was an introvert before that, I would say, because I didn't really like talking to people. I was very much to myself, but I loved working the kitchen and selling people things. Like helping people make a decision like on what burger they want. Like, when they come in, they'll be like, I say, oh, so what do you want to have today? I don't know. Okay, let's start with the process of helping you decide. I enjoyed that. I always enjoyed like helping someone like come up with like a solution, like if I can make someone's process easier, I think that'll be super fun. And I would say like the internships helped a lot. Me asking for these opportunities helped a lot.
Yeah.
And just I feel like people have to be more open to having conversations with different people, even if it's like 5 minutes or like an hour. That's the one thing I realized when I worked with Gyro that I needed to do like earlier this year. So if I was playing like the main set, I would still come early at like 10 p.m. Gyro would be dead quiet, but there'd be like 4 people there. I'm going to talk to these 4 people and find out what's up with them. Maybe they'll come back the next time if I talk to them. Or I'll tell them, actually we don't like this baile funk and Afrobeat music. We actually like house. Then I'll be like, we have Malaya disco party.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just like finding just identifying our consumers.
It's all about perspectives.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about perspectives, man.
Going back on that part where you said like, if there's only 4 people on the bar and all of that, and you actually go to them and want to know what's up, a lot of people actually do not have that sort of humility to actually go down and actually do that as well. And I think on behalf of, I mean, I've experienced situations like that, people like you and anyone like you, right? Who actually step down from the, what do you call that? The stage, is it? Right?
Oh, from the deck.
From the
Yeah,
deck,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
from the deck, and actually talking to their crowd, it actually makes them feel a lot better in general. Because I myself, I go to bars, and when the DJ comes down and like, hey, how's your night and all that, and you're like, oh, shit, the DJ is talking to me, dude. Oh, I feel like I'm at home. So that actually builds the relationship as well,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah, I
only for
definitely
the
agree.
talents, not only for the artists, but also for the consumers as well.
Yeah.
Some of our listeners right now might want to be a DJ
Okay.
sooner or later, right? One day later. So, from your experience as a DJ, how can someone get into the music industry as of now?
Like right now, like how can
Mm.
someone get into the music, like as a DJ, like how to get your first gig?
Mm-hmm.
Circling back to like what I said earlier, it's about asking. Like when I was programming for Gyro, and prior to Gyro I was programming for Six. uh, there's there's a huge culture among DJs to have mixtapes, like 40-minute mixes, 60-minute mixes, 2-hour mixes of like what you play, to send to different bars and clubs. And there were a few people that constantly did send their mixtapes over, and whoever is chosen by the owners or the music directors usually get to play eventually. But I would asking for a gig, seeing if there's an opportunity. There's no harm in like doing that. That's one. Two is like constant practice, because we're going to an age where we can see amazing DJs play on YouTube. You can watch Coachella on YouTube. I watched Sona Festival sets on YouTube. It was live. Ballroom sets are live. And some of these ballroom DJs are amazing. Like, that should be your standard.
Right.
Yeah. Like, because we don't have, like, a very famous Malaysian DJ. We don't have who's Malaysian Diplo. Like, for example, who's as big as Diplo. We don't have that
Right.
person. So it's like, why not aspire, shoot for the stars and fall among the clouds? Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's
There
a
we
very
go.
like cliche kind of
Yeah,
this one,
it's
but
okay,
like,
bro. Yeah.
yeah, but like that's the thing. We don't have a Malaysian superstar,
Yeah.
which exists in America and Europe, and we listen to these artists as well. And in Malaysia, we listen to like Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift and Kanye West and Childish Gambino, but we don't have those artists
Yeah. Coming from
as
our,
big. Like we
yeah.
have Yuna, that's
Yep.
amazing. We have Yuna, and that's baby steps.
Yep,
And
yep.
we had Nicole David, who did that for athletes as well, but we just don't have that person for DJs. Just hopefully, like one day that would come up. That being a DJ is actually a legitimate form of being a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just before we wrap up,
Yeah.
we do have two more questions to go with.
Cool.
Right. This one is pretty random. Okay. This one is pretty random. It's out
Okay.
of the box, right? If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
If I could have
It's pretty random.
if I could have one, the ability to hear someone's heartbeat. I
Why-
guess
why?
like from a DJ's like perspective. Yeah. Because how fast, so I think the sweet spot. Have you seen the movie We Are Your Friends?
Nope.
By Zac Efron? Yeah, so it's like it's a very EDM electronic like kind of movie.
Oh, the one where he acted as a DJ.
Yeah, the one where he acted
okay,
as a DJ, yeah. There's a segment which until today I find the most interesting, like which it's not the best movie in the world or the most well written movie in the world, but like it really highlights the culture of DJing. Like if you compare it to like Idris Elba on Netflix, like that's a comedy. That's like
yeah, the
but
series,
Wells
yeah.
what like was portrayed with Zac Efron was like, that's the dream life, but there has like the struggles that the DJ faces was like highlighted there. There was a segment where they explained the process of how do you build up a crowd, and the sweet spot is like 123 124 BPM. That's how fast your heart beats. And music is classified that way, like by BPM, like 70
Right.
BPM all the way to like 150, 160. So 124 is like the sweet spot, So if I could hear someone's heartbeat and build it up to like 124, I think
Oh,
that would be pretty
shit.
like, but we do play a lot of, I personally love playing tracks which are like from 115 BPM to like 130, 140 BPM. So that's like pretty fast already. It's all about like building it up.
Yep.
You know, that's the process to make it
To get
an
them-
amazing set,
yeah,
or like
yeah.
to get them hype. If you drop straight away 124, it's not gonna happen. Your first song 124, sorry.
Mental state of shock, man. You're like, whoa.
You know?
What?
Yeah.
So the final one would be, where can people find out more about you and your projects?
Instagram, mainly at the Beer Camera God. My website is where most of my photography work, and I don't really update. Most of my gigs are on Instagram. Like I update a monthly poster at the beginning of each month, so everyone like sort of knows. And I don't know if people actually save it or not, like the dates, you know, but it's on my Instagram if people want to see where I'm playing. Projects and collaborations, like photography wise, just comes and goes. I work very, very closely with my girlfriend, so I take a lot of photos for her, a lot of her campaigns and projects as well. And yeah, hopefully I get to shoot more artists as well going forward. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for having us, for spending some quality time today with us, Roshan.
No problem.
It's definitely an eye-opening session, to be honest. I've learned a lot of jargons and lingo that you use here. It's very unfamiliar to my ear, right? And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, you know, as you do it, you keep learning, right?
Yeah, definitely. Stay curious.
Yeah, stay curious. Knowing the landscape of your career will definitely help create a clear vision and path towards your goal. I hope you gain tons of value from this podcast, and if you like this show, it will help us a lot if you share it with your friends and close ones. Better yet, leave us a review and tell us what you think of this show. A special thanks to our guest Roshan for spending some awesome time with us. This was a collaboration between CultureTalent and Renegade Radio. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.